Welcome back, everybody. This is Rob the Easterling. Today we're painting Cassius from Zombicide Green Horde. Alright, so we are starting off with a primer of Barbarian Flesh by the Army Painter. And then we're moving on to Flesh Tone from the Army Painter's washes. And this is pretty much for his skin. And I wanted that to dry a bit so I could do some actual dry brushing on his skin to pop out the highlights. Now it doesn't matter if I get any of the other parts of the miniature because I can just paint over it. That's what's great about these paints. Alright, using some of the metallics paint by the Armor Painter is chainmail metal, plate mail metal, and this is for his armor and his maces, as well as a belt buckle. So we're moving on to a D&D's Marvelous Pigments paint set, Underdark Grey by the Army Painter, and this is for his boots. Alright, so here I forgot to show what paint I was using, but it's the Cobalt Flesh by Army Painter. And I'm doing a dry brush technique over his skin. And I'm using the Army Painter's small dry brush for that. As you notice, I also go over other parts of the miniature, but as I said a while ago, it's easy to paint over this. So using some rigid leather from D&D's Marvelous Pigments paint set, again from Army Painter, and this is just for his hair, because it has a nice dark brownish to it. Now I know I said before I only use contrast colors when I use a white primer, but now I'm going to be using some Wildwood contrast, because actually on the Barbarian Flesh the contrast colors do come out nice, and I find that the Barbarian Flesh actually comes out as a highlight already done. I don't know if you'll see it on here, but it does show up in the picture and in person actually a lot more. So I use this contrast on his belt buckles, his straps, and pretty much his like leather armor, I guess. Then I'm going to use a little bit of Armor Gray by the Zombicide Invader paint set by Army Painter. And this is for his loincloth and some little bandages or wraps that he has around his arms as well. And there's like a little piece of cloth at the end of one of his maces that I use this on as well. And I recently picked up some Vallejo base colors, a set, and this buff was in it. And I found it was like sort of like desert yellow, and I wanted to try it. So compared to the desert yellow, like I said, from Army Painter. And I wanted to try that on the rest of his leather armor because it is a bit lighter in the picture. So I think this comes out nice, especially with the wash later on, you'll see. Again, here's one of my favorite contrast colors, snake bite leather. Using this on the handles of the maces, just because it gives it a nice little, I find with the Barbarian Flesh primer, a woodish tone. So now I'm going to use a Cryptic Armor Shade Gloss, and this is a shade by Citadel Colors. And this is just for anything that I used the plate mail metal on a while ago. To bring it a little bit darker, but I didn't want to use rough iron or cursed blade or anything like that. I just wanted this metal to get a little pop to it. And then I move on to some deep shader from the Army Painter's Zombicide Black Plague paint set. And this is pretty much for all the leather, the clothing, his straps, his boots, and it really brings out a nice contrast in there. And you'll see after I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting on, especially on the white parts where I use that pale skin. And then now I'm using Blood for the Blood God. It's a technical paint. I want to use this instead of the Blood Effect from Army Painter, just because I find it's a little bit thicker and it gives a little bit of a nicer shine to it. So here I come back and do those highlights, like I was saying. And this actually, I've never done these too many times, but it brings out the color and pops, and then it brings the shading more into effect. So I just noticed that even just painting this little bit here, the raised edges only, really made a difference. Now I'm having some fun with the bases. Someone actually gave me this like grass-like stuff, so I put on some glue, as you saw before, and now I'm just putting this on just to finish off the base a little bit more. And you can see it's a nice little effect. I like it. And there you go. That is Cassius completed. Thanks for watching.